Hello and welcome to this week's episode of They've Been Doing It All Day, Sir. I'm Ben.
And I'm Chris.
What a weekend Magic Round was. Let's get stuck in.
Nice change of attire there this week, mate.
Yeah, I thought I'd switch it up. Do you know why? Because Chelsea beat the reigning Premier League champions this weekend. And yeah, it's nice to get one over on Liverpool. So thought I'd put the top on, support the boys. Haven't done it in a while. So yeah, thought I'd put something on to represent, but I also noticed there's something shiny hanging around your neck.
Yeah, just casually did the half marathon at the weekend. You know, I think I've hit every stereotypical point that you do after 30 years old. You start a podcast and do a half marathon. I'm absolutely killing it in life, I think. So it was a fun experience. Probably won't do one again. But no, it was good to.
What was the time?
Around.
What was the time you got in?
I did it in 2:13. As I was saying earlier, I'm closer to 110 kilos than I am 100. So getting around in under 2 hours 15 was sort of my goal. Did a bit, got to about 15, 16k, and then started doing 8 on, 4 off just to get through the massive hills. And to be fair, there were a few people who were starting to hit the deck, and I was like, I'm not taking it that serious. So started to feel a bit lightheaded. I was like, I'm just going to put on the brakes a little bit and just make sure I get myself to the end. Whereas my partner, she flew around in, I think, 1:54. So yeah, she was gone. Like from the start line, I tried to keep up with her for 2k, and then she disappeared. But to be fair to her, she did put a fair bit of training in compared to me, who did it run once every couple of weeks. So
believe it or not, training helps. Training helps you to get better time.
I've heard.
What were the pre-race nerves like? Talk me through kind of the morning.
Absolutely nothing. Like, considering I'm extremely nervous when it comes to most sporting events, I was so chilled. Had a couple of crumpets in the morning, had a coffee. The most frustrating thing was trying to just start. It's like you're in your wave, and it just
how busy was it?
There was 20,000 people that did it, and we were in the blue wave. Sorry, which was the second or third one to go, and you just crammed in, and you were all funneled out to the front, and it just takes forever to go.
The only a busy running event that I've done, I did the Vitality 10k through London. And it started on the Mall. For people that are not familiar with London, that's the road that leads up to Buckingham Palace. And it was a similar sort of thing, just everyone funneling out a gate. And it took, you go through the chip timer and you're like, I'm off to a slow start already. Then you're trying to catch up, and this was only 10k. So trying to catch up over 21.6 kilometres or something like that.
Yeah, but no, it's a bit off-putting because the first K marker, it wasn't at a K, it was like at 700 metres, and then it puts you off a little bit, and then there's because there's everyone doing it at the same time, you're then diving in and out of people. There's groups who are just huddled together, going really slowly, and you're fucking weaving in and out as well.
Probably doing it for a good cause, but sod them.
Well, so was I. I was doing it for the Mark Hughes Foundation.
Yeah, fair enough. Good one to get in there.
But yeah, it was good.
What was the relief like crossing the line?
Thank God this is over. I was feeling like that from about 18k in. But the issue was like the last, I think 4 or 5k, there's some massive hills in there. It's like over the race is about 230, 240 metres of elevation, and it absolutely saps it out of you. I'd say it's a lot harder than the City to Surf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to be signing up for either. My body is absolutely wrecked. You said about being a stereotypical 30-year-old. I'm a stereotypical mid-30. It feels like all I have to do is sneeze, get out of bed wrong, lie, and my back is in bits. Like, I don't know what I've done, but I'm definitely going to have to go to the physio and get it sorted out. Like, I'm a wreck at the moment. There's going to be I've been told to stop running, so I can't even train for anything like that because of the meniscus in my knees. My knee swelled up the other day, so yeah, we've got to try and sort that out. But what a weekend of sport it was. Magic Round was an incredible one to watch. But let's start off with our performances of Magic Round. Who have you kind of picked for your performance of the round?
I've gone for Big Teddy at the back. There's been the fight between him and Dylan Edwards for who's going to be State of Origin number 1. I reckon he's fully cemented that game 1 jersey now.
You reckon?
Yeah. We'll get into it in a little bit why I think that, but his performance, 271 run meters, 2 line breaks, 2 try assists. Like he was like so important to that Roosters team after Smith went off early. So
back-to-back weeks as well.
Yeah.
Doing it last week against the Dragons and then this week against who did they play this week?
Dolphins.
Dolphins, of course they did. He certainly stood out as one of their better performers. I went for someone that has been on a very underperforming side that performed really well. So Fletcher Sharp, it was his 21st birthday over the weekend, which what a better way to celebrate than scoring 3 tries for the struggling Newcastle Knights against the Rabbitohs. So considering they're struggling to put points on the board, can't argue of going over. No. 2 of them were very early as well, so kind of shot out to a lead. But yeah, that's who my performance of the round was. There's loads we could have mentioned.
Yeah.
Who...
Fogarty had a
game.
Had a great game. Luke Metcalf had a great game.
Cleary had a round of it.
Yeah,
but we'll touch on those when we get through the fixtures. But who was your flop of the round?
I've gone for this team solely because it is at their home ground. There's
even though it was a away game, yeah. So much around it. They'd come off a few big wins. They were looking a solid team. I've gone for the Broncos to then get your pants pulled down at home in Magic Round. It's a little bit embarrassing, I think. Yeah, by a team that's, we'll touch on them in a bit, but struggling.
Massively struggling. And to let them do what they did to them as well, it's a bit unforgiving, really. And
they're so inconsistent, the Broncos. My flop of the round, I can't look past Jaden Sewer's error just before halftime. Like people say about 12-point swings. And he's dived over, and you watch the replay, and it's like as he's leaning forward to commit himself to diving over, he's just brought his knee up and kneed the ball out. But the fact that then Jareem Buller's run 105 metres and
quickly
and scored 6, it's a full 12-point swing. Like those sort of things don't happen often, but when they do, they are calamitous. And we were messaging at the time, and I can't think of another error in sports that has been so costly immediately. Like, for example, you mentioned about, what about Fernando Torres' miss against Man United? But it's like United didn't go up the other end and then score straight away. It was an open goal. He missed, but then it just led to a goal kick and play on for a while. As this drops the ball from seemingly no one around him scoring it to then go up the other end and concede was...
Probably another one just from my history would be Wolshak Chesney and Lauren Koscielny, Carling Cup final 2011. Run into each other, ball gets spilled over Femi Martins, scores
straight
the winner.
Through. That's more of a calamitous mistake though when you're down your own end, not being in a position to score the other end, and then it's just really costing you. And that kind of swung the momentum of the game.
Massively.
The Dragons would have been 6 points behind, I think, at half time then. It would have been 18-12, and it could have swung everything that happened after the half. But yeah, there was one thing I am going to mention. Do you know what? The performance of the referees, I put them as my flop last week, and it was such good rugby to be able to watch in the fact that it just flowed.
They weren't getting pestered every 2 minutes though by the bunker, which massively shifted it. And I mentioned it last week. It's so hard to referee when you've got someone chatting away in your ear every couple of minutes. So yeah, it was good to. But this is the thing, like God knows what they're going to be like this week.
Who knows? And also like the judiciary fines that have been handed down, like Atoyo Kamana's stamp in the Melbourne game, which we'll talk about in a second, didn't get any fine for it, didn't get cited or anything, even though the argy-bargy after he got put in the bin. Maybe it's a bit of double jeopardy. If you get put in the bin, then you can't get fined. I don't know, but it's like little things like that. And then in fact, let's move on to the Magic Round fixtures, because we're going to touch on the Raiders Storm first. But just to go over the tips, I got off to a fairly good start, tipping a few correct, and your start wasn't too great.
I had a meh, absolute meh. No dancing around it. I thought I'd be bold in my predictions, and literally no one turned up.
None of them worked out.
Which other than the Raiders one, which we were both sort of happy with, but it was very frustrating to see that happening. And I think it just shows that you can sit here, have a thought process of what's going to happen.
A logical thought process.
And no word of a lie, my mind did change about 4 or 5 times during the week.
I'm going to say this though, like we're currently filming on a Tuesday, so team lists have just been released, but a lot can happen between Tuesday and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Last minute changes can take place, injuries can happen, switches. So there are some times where I'm like, I actually think they're going to win, but we've got to stick true to our tips.
Yeah, 100%.
On a Tuesday and go with them. But I finished with 5 out of 8 this week. You got 3 out of 8. But let's get into reviewing the round, and we'll kick off with what I thought was game of the round. It was second versus third on the table. The Raiders 20 defeat the Storm 18 in Golden Point. Let's get to the most controversial moment of the match straight away. The penalty call on Trent Loiero to effectively win the game for the Raiders. Fogarty sticks over the penalty. Do you think it was the right call? High shot?
It's so difficult in just that we've talked about it week on week. He couldn't go anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
He was there in the tackle. Tackle's been made. The player's in slipping down, and he's obviously come in to support the tackle. It's high contact. It is a penalty.
It is.
And the only thing I suppose he could have tried to do in that situation is drag the player down. I think it was Hudson Young who was carrying the ball.
Powerful runner.
And he could have tried to pull him down, but it was such a short period of time. Like, it's such a small gap to make a decision. But unfortunately, it is any contact to the head is being penalised. It's not the first week it's happened. So the players are aware, and
we called for it last week. We were saying, look, we don't mind high contact penalties being given. Like, if you make contact with the head, which is semi-forceful, whatever that moderate force is, then fair enough, give a penalty, don't send to the bin, don't put on report. That's exactly what happened. He hit him in the head with a forearm. Could he avoid it? Probably not. But still, it's contact with the head and it is a penalty. So I do think it was the correct decision. Mm-hmm. The interesting one before that was, there was 2. Pappenhausen's field goal, when he dropped it over. And if you look back, I don't know I'll ask what your opinion is, but I thought he did elbow him to the face as he went through, which again, by the rule book. Yeah,
and when you watch it in sort of full motion, it does look like he's sort of pulled, like just naturally in a tackle, and his forearm comes around. But when you do slow it down, you do see the tackler's arms buckle, and he just comes in.
Second effort, he goes like, "I'm going to give you something."
And you're like, you can't do that. It's stupid, and it's such a stupid thing to do in that situation as well. Like, if it was midfield, you could possibly get, but it's dying embers of a game that would have then put them out of reach.
You've got to have the smarts about it, haven't
it's
you?
Game management, poor game management, and that side of things. But yeah, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was a penalty, that one. And the one that I was a bit confused about was the Atoya Kamano one, where he seemingly stamped on him. There is, again, a second effort with his boot to which then Canberra get the penalty, go down the other end, and then it leads to the Hudson Young high shot. But it's just one of those things where Melbourne have got to realise, like, Atoya Kamano's young, Loiero probably should know better. You're in a position to win the game. You're in Golden Point. Like, just keep your head, keep calm. And then you'll seemingly be in a good position to win the game. They should have won the game because Pappenhausen puts it over.
Yeah, and even in that position as well, like they were that was on the 20 or even closer.
Yeah.
I think it was on the 10. And again, it's just, as you said, poor game management, not understanding the situation, rising to something that you could just walk away from. And there's 2 instances that lost Melbourne the game essentially.
Indeed, but on that note of game management, one person that I thought managed the game fairly well for the Raiders and put them in good positions was Manly's latest signing, Jamal Fogarty.
He looks good.
He does. And do you know what I love? Love's a strong word, actually. What I like about him at the moment, because as soon as he puts on that maroon jersey, I'm pretty sure I will love him.
Yeah.
But it's hang on.
So
the Manly maroon jersey.
Okay,
but when he puts out, his boot is enormous. Like, he can kick you out of trouble.
Yeah.
And he also was involved in the 2 tries that, apart from the moment of excellence for Kyo Weeks, like the 2 that they scored before that, he was involved in, like, the pass before the pass, which is always good to have from your 7. But yeah, I'm looking forward to him coming to Manly.
Yeah, massive. You're never going to get a massive run game out of him. He's not a running half, which you can forgive, and he'll be partnered with old Lukey Brooks, so he can do all the running, but his calmness, as you said, to make passes, make the correct kicks, make the right reads.
Defensively as well, he's
solid. He's a solid unit as well. He's not exactly small.
He is, and under pressure as well. You see him. I thought there was an opportunity that he might miss that in front of the post at the end, but he showed his worth and kind of slotted it over. But there's some controversial talk around. People have mentioned before about him potentially being called up for Origin. I think there's a few options before him. Ben Hunt playing 7, but Cherry Evans isn't in the greatest of form. So
it depends on what he does in these next couple of games. I think with that, but you've got the likes of Cam Munster as well in the halves. And you know you can chop and change a little bit, but he's asking the question. It's down to them to answer it or not.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks we find out whether who's going to be named. So, but yeah, great win for the Raiders. We both tipped him. We thought that they were going to cause an upset. And I'm just going to mention Kyle Weeks' individual try as well. He played it Manly for a season. We were like, get rid of this useless geezer. And then he's just finding his form at fullback for the Raiders. And yeah, just 3 minutes to go, chips it over the top, chases it, and away he goes.
Matty Nicholson's little offload as well by getting lit up to him.
True.
It's one of those moments where you're getting absolutely obliterated, but you need to focus on the pass. He did it well, and then Weeks was gone. So that was pretty decent as well.
Raiders looking good though, but onto the Broncos. You mentioned you got them in your flop of the week. Yep. Beaten by the Panthers 32-8. Absolutely annihilated. And
shocking.
Nathan Cleary, what an animal. The guy,
the couple of shots he took as well to then just get up, and he made massive game-changing
hits.
Points straight after. I think the first one he got from Carrigan, straight down in the first half. He got lit up off the ball, steps up, was there to try, nearly got an assist, but Liam Martin just got stopped before the line.
Yeah.
But then gets the penalty and slots it. Yeah. And then the other one by
Tony Staggs wallops him.
Gets up 40-20 straight after, like that in the next set. It just shows the presence of the man.
He can just shut down, like as a team you think, right, we're on here. We've just walloped Cleary. We're going to move the ball, and then all of a sudden your momentum's gone because he's stuck it in a 40-20. And what I loved about him as well, I can't remember who he shot out the line, but he shot out the line and hit someone, and he set the tone from it. It was like, yeah, Cleary's on. And one of the biggest things which he must have had in his locker from the grand final 2 years ago is where he ran exactly the same place, saw exactly the same thing. And I don't know whether he gave a little pump and saw it, but cuts inside. And I sent you the overlay of the two.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
And they're exactly the same. But he just reminded the league that he's about, Penrith are about, and take us seriously.
I think that there's massive differences between how they've been last week compared to others. Is Broncos were knocking on the door for a very prolonged period of time at the start of the first half, but the Panthers were answering pretty much everything. I think they only conceded one try in the first 10, I think it was, which previous weeks they've gone on to sort of concede one or two, and there's been that momentum and slowed the Panthers down, but they were just defensively a different team. But in saying that, you can't say the same about the Broncos. The Broncos' defensive lines were all over the place. That try you're talking about, you don't need 4 or 5 or 6 players shifting with a 3 or 4 overlap.
They bit on it and they were trying to get out, and
Cleary just strolls right in. And this is where you get taught from, regardless of if it's league or union, is you need guards around the ruck.
Yeah.
Right? You need to have your one or two guards there to watch the cutbacks. Wasn't there, and it's a bit of a schoolboy error.
It is. And with the Broncos, I kind of feel that Payne Haas still had a good game, but not as good by his standards as what it is. Like, he didn't get over 200 metres. He still ran for 180 or something like that. But Selwyn Cobbo had a really good game. I love the way he runs it straight from fullback. Like, there's none of this messing, dancing around. He can run it sideways, but as soon as he sees a gap, he's north-south hitting it. But if Adam Reynolds ain't having a good game, if Ben Hunt isn't having a good game, if Staggs ain't having a good game, Mariner isn't having a good game, it's like they need everyone to click to put a performance on. And if one of two of those aren't on form, it seems like they can't get the job done.
Don't have a couple of different plans. And Reynolds missing a big 40-20.
Twice, I think. I think he kicked 2 out on the full, didn't he?
Yeah, which is not like him. I think he's got 3 or 4 for the season, which is crazy. Some halves go throughout the whole career with only getting a few. But what I did want to mention about this is just in that New South Wales fullback debate with Dylan Edwards. First half, he looked very shy under the high ball. He was sort of positioning himself away from it and not really being that one to contest it. I think from their first try where it clipped off the post, he was ending. He
was the other side of the post, wasn't he, or something like that?
And it's like, I think a couple of, last season he would have like ran through the post to be up in the air to collect that. So that's why I've got Tedesco just over Edwards at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. I heard something interesting earlier about Penrith need to win 10 of their last 15 to get in the 8. Yeah. But if they do, it means that they're an informed team, and I wouldn't like to meet them in the finals. I still don't think they're going to make the 8, but we'll see how it goes because they still got to navigate Origin without some of their major stars. But on to the next game. This was an absolute ball game. Cowboys 26 were defeated by the New Zealand Warriors. Up the Wars. We didn't tip the Warriors, and it very nearly looked like it was going our way. But my word, Luke Metcalf, what a try-saving tackle to stop. Is it Talangi in the corner? Fair play to him. But he's proven he had a stinker in Vegas. Everyone writ him off, but I think he's going to be a future star.
Yeah, massively. He was incredible. Very, very similar to Fogarty, how he just ran the game. He was everywhere. He was making the key passes. And then there was a few times where he'd link up with Harris Tavita and they would create overlaps, create plays both on the left and the right. And yeah, he had an incredible game for such a young half to start, as you said, with Vegas and then coming back into it. But what do you think sort of shifted in that sense? Because the Warriors dominated that first half.
They did. They flew away with it.
But then they could have easily lost it.
Do you know, at one point, there was a turning point where I believe the Cowboys' physicality, because Jason Tuamulolo had one of his best games since recent memory. He got, I think it was like 90 post-contact meters or something like that. He was running hard. And I'm thinking that maybe the Warriors didn't have that physicality in the middle to slow that down, which then leads to tiredness. If we talk about the refereeing of the game, it was a fairly free-flowing game. So the Cowboys on the front foot, there's cracks that are going to appear because people are starting to get fatigued. And that's what we want to see from a game. We want to see high-scoring games, fatigue kicking in. But there was a period of, 7 minutes where the Cowboys scored 3. I was like, if they carry on at this rate, they could absolutely blow them away in the second half. But fair play to the Warriors for digging deep. Some inspirational tackles from Metcalf, and then there was a few little errors from the Cowboys here and there where their fatigue, I think, started to kick in. But the Warriors dug deep and just managed to get it done. And I feel a bit aggrieved by this one because I feel the Cowboys could have done it.
Drinkwater left 2 conversions out there, which would have tied the game. Just going off the back of that, I think the Cowboys got a lot more creative in the second half as well. Like there was the little kick through on the fourth tackle, which was unreal vision. And then there was the missed passes to Lange, who then scored in the corner. And I think they were very much targeting to a Peaky, is it? Yep, to a Peaky in the second half, which he was a little bit all over the place. But then saying that, he got an absolute unreal fingertip touchdown in the goal area to stop a certain try as well. So, but no, it was, the headline should have all been all about Luke Metcalf in that game, to be honest. Yeah. And the scoreline warranted his performance. It would have been a shame to
lose. And I get what you're saying with that one. But I mean, the next game that we're going to talk about, the Dragons against the Tigers, what a game this was as well. Tigers 34, Dragons 28. I've mentioned about it before, but that blunder, we can't skip past it, talking about it again. But it was a big momentum swinger.
Massively.
Feel sorry for the guy because it's then repeated on every screen and you can hear the crowd reacting, the moans, the groans, and it's like, oh no, and he's looking up at that thinking, what have I? And as soon as he went over, you could see that he knew he dropped it as well. Every
Tigers player had given up as well. You look at Adam Dewey, he wasn't even looking at it, and he'd stopped running. And it's just horrible for the man.
Feel sorry for the guy, but I tell you one thing: the Tigers are surprising considering what's happened. I think they're showing a bit of resilience in terms of the performances that they're able to string together. Won a tight one last week. This week they flew out to a lead as well, and for a fortunate error, they've then gone even further in front, but managed to maintain that. Because we look at like what happened to the Warriors after half time, they kind of fell apart, but the Tigers managed to dig deep, stay strong, and Yeah, did you see Taruva's interview after the game?
Yeah.
I thought it was so comical. What a guy. First time being interviewed.
He's just so happy.
He's in awe of being interviewed by like all of the superstars, Sean Johnson. Yeah. And he's just there. And he's like, yes, I've made it. Mal Meninga calling out the Tiger chant or whatever it was. And he's just there, just unbelievable. But it's good to see different people interviewed after games.
100%. And it's not the same plays each time. And you don't want to go to like the superstars. It's good to get that variance, and he's just a great little character, and he's on the score sheet. He's always a guaranteed anytime try scorer. He's absolutely fantastic out on the wing, and I think that then helps to what the deciding factor in this game really was, and I think it was the Tigers had the better attack than the Dragons, because both teams defensively at times were shocking, but I think the Tigers were just a lot more, as you say, resilient in what they were doing.
Yeah, and one thing, well, I suppose this links to the kind of interview thing, my thinking of they're trying to avoid Galvin and Luai being interviewed on TV. And I reckon it feels like there's a bit of tension from what Luai came out and said in terms of, I don't have to like the guy, but we've mentioned it. When you step across that white line, we've got to remain professional. But do you think that tension between the two of them, potential tension, could be try and improving performances because they want to prove that there isn't something wrong?
I genuinely think this could have been an instance that has just been blown up by the media, and it's a lot bigger because of the media than it actually is.
Like, could he stay until 2027? I'm getting the vibes that he could.
And when he had a great
end
offload,
of 2026.
Galvin had an unreal offload to Charlie Staines for the first try. Yeah. And if you watch the film back, Luai runs straight
to him.
over
I noticed
to Galvin.
Yeah.
And it's like, did Luai do that because it's on the big screen, or is that because of they are actually getting on it? It was just blown out of proportion, and you could think the little posts were just a little bit of banter between mates, which has been blown up a little bit. But you know what? They are, Luai and Galvin together are looking very good when they do start linking up.
Yeah.
But one of the things about Galvin is he made a few mistakes in attack, but he turns and he's straight up trying to track down.
There. Yeah, he's committed.
He's committed to the cause.
Maybe it was that getting dropped in the game. He was like, right now I've actually got to prove what I'm worth because I'm out the door soon, so I've got to prove it. But I mean, we look at the Tigers and we think they're on a good trajectory. The Dragons, though, I mean, Shane Flanagan after was a bit frustrated in the presser about the mistake, whether that actually cost them, but where for the Dragons, I don't know. They're an interesting one. They beat Manly, and then they've looked terrible in their last two games against the Roosters and the Tigers.
I've said it every time. They were terrible against Manly as well. But I felt a bit sorry for Gutherson because he just was marshalling that team, and he was trying so hard to get it over the line for him, but it feels like couldn't get there.
We might have mentioned it last week. I can't remember. Lots happened in last week, but it just doesn't feel like that experienced core of players in Holmes, Gutherson, who's the Cook, is not really clicking. So I don't know whether that's coming back to bite them, going experience over kind of emerging talent or anything like that. But we'll see what happens with the Dragons. Well, on to the next game. The Rabbitohs, I didn't think they would get beaten this, but I predicted the Knights, but I didn't think it'd be.
You did?
I thought it'd be low scoring. The Rabbitohs defeated by the Newcastle Knights, points 30-4. The South Sydney Rabbitohs looking free fall. I know they've got a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And Latrell wasn't playing because of his high shot. But even when he was playing last week, it didn't feel like there was much difference from him. What do we think is happening? Can they turn it around? Or
no, I think they're going to have a very difficult next few weeks. They've hit a wall in the aspect of the injuries are really starting to show, and you've got a lot of sort of unknown names in there, and they've got another halves partnership. Cody Walker's missing as well, who's absolutely huge. It's not just one man who's causing or not implementing into this, and they're in a bit of a free for all, as you're saying. I can't see them getting over it over the next 4 or 5 weeks, I don't think. One
of their leading tacklers as well, Mamazula's, he hits everything that moves. Like as a number 9, he's like Tom Starling, sort of just hits everything that's going. Well, apparently it hasn't been officially released what his injury was, but it either looked like shoulder or elbow. being dislocated, but he's out this week. And that's a big part of their attack and him moving the ball quickly, ruck speed. But defensively, they run at him and he's solid. So losing him, I reckon they're in a world of hurt. They got a tough one this week against the Broncos. I don't think they're trying people in all different positions, and then people are getting injured, so they're having to fill in. And like they talk about Lewis Dodd coming over from the Super League, he's not in the plans whatsoever because all the injuries that they've had. Yet they're moving Whiten into the halves. Who else have they experimented with in the halves? Too many. Campbell Graham, I think it was, or whoever it is.
Jai Gray was
up there. Like it's everyone but Lewis Dodd. Yeah. So his future at the club isn't there. But thinking about the Newcastle Knights a bit, because we don't want to heap on and lump on the Rabbitohs. They're going through a bit of a tough patch at the moment. Do you think this could be a turning point for them?
Not at all. Not to sound horrible about it, but I think this was just against a very, very poor. It was a training game really for the Knights.
Hey, don't knock my Fletcher Sharp.
No. Fletcher Sharp, he to score a hat trick in any NRL game, regardless of who's in front of you, is incredible. But I reckon Kalen Ponga could have sat down, made a cup of tea by the time he was even touched. In sometimes when he was receiving the ball, and that's the massive difference when you have a shift in play quality is the amount of time that they then give the opposition, and that's something that the Knights have been missing, is being able to make decisions, and they haven't been making the correct ones, but with the time they're making the better decisions, opening things up. And I'm a massive fan of the boy, but Jai Gray got manhandled a few times this game as well, which doesn't really help.
I'll tell you what, well, I think I saw it that Greg Marju, one winger, got a significant number of meters. I think it was over 200. And then you look at Bradman Best running physical as well. And when those two are switched on, no matter who your centres and wingers partnership are, trying to stop them two is difficult. But they've got the Titans next. I reckon if they can put together back-to-back wins, the Knights, this could change. But I still don't see them as challenging any of the top teams or anything like that.
I think they're more worried about what's beneath them than they are what's above. And that's but just to put it in again, just quickly going on to what the start of the game was. I think the Rabbitohs had a kick, and Ponga collected it in their 20, and they ended up running up the other end and scoring from like one or two passes, and poor tackling, poor defensive lines. It was more of a Rabbitohs
capitulation
than it was a Knights absolutely, oh my god, they're going to win the comp sort of performance. But we've been there with Manly, so
you never know.
You've got to enjoy every win.
You do indeed. But on to the Roosters Dolphins. So the Roosters defeat the Dolphins 36 points to 26. There were some standout performers in this game. You mentioned about James Tedesco. Robert Toyer in the centres is turning into a great find, great player. But for me, it felt like kind of the Dolphins really didn't turn up. And they turned up in patches, but then they never turned up for the whole 80 minutes. But decent back-to-back attacking performances by the Roosters. They're sticking points on teams.
Yeah, and their attack is incredible. They've got massive bodies who are brilliant and athletic in everything they do.
Yeah.
But as you said, the Dolphins didn't turn up for the first God knows how long.
They never really troubled,
which is really frustrating.
The Dolphins never really troubled the Roosters. Yeah,
they still put 26 points on them, which you can't shrug at that. And you could have thought that you were texting me going, they can't, can they? And then Robert Toyer.
Exactly. They got within 2 scores and a bit of momentum. And this is what I mean about they turned it on, then switched off. And then all of a sudden the Roosters go down the other end and go like, don't even bother. Like, we're going to win this.
No, it's the Roosters were incredible. They are a very good team, as I said, going forward.
Defensively, there's question marks.
Yeah, massive questions around defensive, but also to do what they did after losing Sandon Smith so early, who's been sort of pinnacle in their attack all year, or the last few games at least. But as I said in my the player of the round is Tedesco stood up, and he was in that little half back position every now and then, linking up play, and then Dolphins didn't turn up until they were getting absolutely hammered. So again, for a team who's supposed to be at their home ground, it's very, very disappointing.
Yeah, well, I think their actual home ground is the KO Stadium.
Okay.
But they do play a lot of their games in the Suncorp. But I think the Roosters, are they back? Not sure. I think they need to improve defensively.
But But saying that, like, they are so confident in their attack. Like, you've seen
they've let Dom Young go.
They're letting Dom Young go, like, immediately. So they're very confident in what they're doing. They've clearly got plans.
I wonder who's going to pick him up.
I think the Knights should really go for him.
Yeah, it makes sense to go back to the Knights because then you have Marjorie one wing, Dom Young the next, Bradman Best. Yeah, it would make. We'll see what happens. There's a few other teams that I'm sure will be in for him, but he's got to leave by the 30th of June, something like that. So not long to go. But onto the Dogs. Now they defeated the Titans 38-18. Now there's a lot of talk around kind of Stephen Crichton and him being the best defensive centre, him being a leader. No one really talks about his attack. I believe he's one of the best all-round players in the game. And at the weekend, he showed his attack. There was a moment when he's sprinting down the wing. In fact, there's two moments. One where he's sprinting down the wing and you can just see his acceleration around the corner and he offloads it to Karaz. And then also his little fake goose step, and he looks inside to give it a pass and then knows that Karaz is on the outside and immediately just pops it off. If it wasn't for him, I don't think Karaz has as many tries as he does. No. And I like Stephen Crichton. I love the guy. I think he's one that I think currently he's the best all-round player in the league.
I can't really argue with that, especially on form. Like you've got players who are having amazing seasons, like we've talked about Terrell May, Payne Haas, but
forgot to mention him in the Tigers game earlier. He led the stats for VB Hard Earned Index. Sorry to not shout him out. What an animal! But onto the Dogs.
But yeah, Crichton. We discussed it last week. Like, he has been arguably the best signing in the last 2 years for what his output has been. You can see it whenever a team he's in. Like, you saw it in that Panthers team he was in. See it in Origin. He's a massive leader in everything that he does.
I was about to say, with Origin being selected in a couple of weeks and the talk about last year's captain, Jake Trbojevic, not being picked, for me, all roads point towards Stephen Crichton leading the Blues to a whitewash against the Maroons.
Yeah, 100%. If he can keep his head, he's cool. Like, one of the best things about Crichton is he's up in your face. He's the king of, like, the shithousery as well. Like, he won't back down from anything. But as a leader and as a captain, you've got to draw a line at some point, because especially in Origin, you know, up at the Suncorp, the last thing you want is just
losing his head. Because
look at what the Dogs did last time they were up there. Like, they went a little bit over the boil,
lost their heads,
and then lost their heads. So I'd happily have him as the New South Wales captain.
Yeah.
But it's just then having the conversation with him right now. You've got to lead this team. But yeah, completely agree. He's unreal at the moment. I reckon only Nathan Cleary when he's on.
Isaiah Yao maybe as well. Are you talking about players, or captain?
No, as best all-round players, because Cleary throws his body in front of everything. He's not a pretty boy seven. Like, he will hit things and hit things hard.
True.
But at the moment, I can't think of anyone else, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. But the Titans didn't offer much. They lost their 7, Tom Weaver, who was in for Campbell, who's back this week, but losing your 7 after a couple of minutes to a HIA Category 1.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really anyone that stood out for them. It's difficult. They've got so much pace in attack, and they're back 3, 5, like, they electric going forward sometimes. But there must be something going on, because David Fafita for Des Hasler to say you've got a lot to work on to get back, like being dropped to the Queensland Cup team, there's something going on in the camp. Yeah. But Kieran Foran apparently was on track to come back for this round. Not been named in the team, so he must. I mean, he's old. He's an older guy. I think he's 36, 37. Tore his bicep. I dread to think what that would feel like, because like I said, injured my knee and back, and it feels like I'm in world of trouble. So to come back from that, they're not rushing him. But do you reckon he makes a difference when he's back? I'm not sure I know too much about him, if I'm honest.
No, he's from just reading the Manly pages, he's always in quite high regard.
Yeah,
and there was talk when DC said he was leaving that to get him back for a couple of years just to over it. But I don't think it's the attack. That's the issue. It's the defense, and they're shipping a lot of points. Like, other than that first time they played the Dogs and they put 20 on them, like. And they kept the Dogs quite down every week since then. Like, what was it against the Cowboys? They shifted another 30, 40 points.
Yeah.
Like, their defence is all over the place. And we've seen it at Manly. I think Hasler has a bit of a habit of losing the dressing room, and I don't know whether that's happening at the Titans at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. But one big thing to come out of this game was Jacob Preston. Now, we said last week about, was it Sipley? We got that wrong a couple of weeks ago about his ban. We didn't realise the judiciary was happening after. But Jacob Preston has been slammed with a 3 to 4 3-match ban. Should he contest it, it will be a 4-match ban for a crusher tackle. They are contesting it apparently, so that's still to happen. But to me, I don't know whether you've seen it. I watched it earlier on the bus. There's nothing he could do, and like he flicks the top of Big Tino's head, and it just so happens to be. I don't feel it's a 3-game ban. It's a fine at most. So they could lose him for 3 to 4, along with the other bans that they have as well. So
this is the thing as well. I haven't seen many of these turned over, especially like the big
crusher tackles, especially
big ban ones. You look at what happened with Sorensen last week. His ended up going from a
2 to 3.
3 game.
Oh, it was Sorensen that we spoke about. Yeah. Sorry, not Sipley. Sorensen last week that it hadn't been decided.
So they must feel confident in what they've got and the evidence they've got, but especially these big ban ones, I don't think they're that oftenly turned over, to be honest. Yeah,
I agree, but we'll see how it impacts them. And then on to the final game of the week, which was actually the first game on the Friday night. But it just felt like a run-of-the-mill Sharks performance. Just got the job done.
Points. And
they beat the Eels 28-18. Nico Hines actually had a very good performance. It feels like the last couple of weeks things are starting to click. But the Eels, I don't know what to make of them. Like you tip them, I tip the Sharks, but you don't know who's going to turn up for the Eels.
No, and this was just stupid mistakes, drop passes. It was just a Eels start of the season performance. Which allowed the Sharks. To be honest, I wasn't that impressed by the Sharks. They just were the better team out of 2 teams. Not saying they were in any sort of position to lose this, and saying that they'll probably go and absolutely annihilate Manly.
Do you know what? I wrote a little note here about the Eels that I thought they looked the better team in the first half, but they couldn't get it done in the red zone. And you look at the tries that were scored. Adokar just seems to be scoring for fun at the moment, which is good. But the one thing that stood out for me was the try that that Nikora scored. He was on the numbers and he ran from all the way outside to all the way inside with a powerful run. That was such a good line to run and a powerful finish. I think that was the highlight of the game. Like Braden Trindle, when they were down to 12, kicked a 40-20, which massively helped, which McInnes then goes on and scores from. But Parra just seemed to rely on their offloads. It just feels like same. The Raiders and the Eels are just offload.
Raiders aren't doing it as much at the moment.
They aren't.
I think they've calmed it down, whereas the Eels love an offload. And they were shipping it from side to side as well without any real execution, which again sort of slowed it down for them. But I don't know, if Lomax comes into this team and when he does come back, I think they are going to be a different sort of beast because you've got a different attacking threat there. And with Adokar, like I messaged you and I was like, especially with everything that's gone on with Ezra Mam and the Bulldogs, do you think the Bulldogs are like sort of kicking themselves a little bit in releasing Adokar?
It's probably something they stood by their principles of a club. Like if you're caught defacing the club somewhat or putting the club into disrepute, then you've got to go. But the guy's an animal. He's a very good finisher. He's a physical runner. Runs through a defender, scores tries. He would have made their attack better this year, no doubt. But let's look at that was Magic Round. What a weekend! And it seemed like from the outset that it was a party atmosphere next year.
Well, to be fair, it started off with a fantastic State of Origin game.
Very valid.
Which we'll quickly go over. Did you manage to get much of this?
I did. I was in the gym whilst watching it. I was doing a little bit of treadmill walking just to get some steps in. I thought the New South Wales, it was even for a bit. I think whilst they were finding their feet because it's the first game of the season. But then New South Wales decided to step it up and they absolutely blew them away. And I can, if I'm being honest, if it continues in this trajectory, I can only see a 3-0 whitewash for the girls in blue.
Yeah, massive. And New South Wales were a different animal in the second half. I think that second half was one of the most complete halves of sort of rugby league I think I've seen from that point of view. There was two massive standouts for me in Jessica Sturgis and Isabel Kelly, both the centres for New South Wales.
If I'm correct in saying, isn't Sturgis Tommy Talau's missus?
I don't know. I'd have to Google that.
If that's correct, we'll keep it in. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she is.
So yeah, the two centres, Jessica Sturgis and Isabel Kelly, they were incredible in attack as well as defence. There was one of the tries for. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, they've been clearly training together, and
exactly.
they're two very good players. Freshard, for her first try, Kelly did a pretty decent offload. Who, while she was falling, was able to flick it up to her in the corner. And there was a few times that she hit the Queensland players and drove them back a few yards as well, especially within the second half. And then Jessie Southwell was very much instrumental and orchestrated a brilliant attack in that second half. Only shout out I'll probably give to Queensland is Tamika Upton at fullback. Yeah. She was very good under the high ball.
Who it wasn't her then? Because I remember one of New South Wales' first tries, or was it actually, sorry, it was Queensland try where the fullback didn't jump. She just waited for the ball to come down, and then she got jumped over the top. That's one of the things that seems like a common theme in the game, that people don't seem to be jumping for high balls. Yeah.
But now, like you say, if they turn up to the Allianz and give that sort of performance, I think it could be an absolute whitewash this series. So very much looking forward to seeing that game
next week, isn't it?
Yeah, 15th.
Not this Thursday, next Thursday. Yeah, but great start to the round. Really crowd involved, biggest watched sporting fixture on Channel 9 as well this year.
Unreal.
Fair play, and the game is getting bigger, and I think that will entice more people to watch the women's game because it's physical, it's competitive.
Yeah, the pace of it was played at as well was really impressive.
Yeah, and it was a great start to what was a great weekend. Yeah. I think we might have to try and somehow carve up next year and get up there and give it a go, because Manly will hopefully be playing next year, not on the Friday night against the Broncos.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's look ahead to the round 10 fixtures. We've got the Roosters on a bye this week, but up first on the Thursday night, we've got some Thursday night footy. We've got the $1.80 Parramatta Eels at home against the $2.05 Dolphins. Who are you going with?
I'm going to go for the Dolphins in this one. If they turn up, I think they could absolutely obliterate the Eels. But in saying that, I think the Eels will still have a good fight for it. So I'm just going for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going to join you on that one. I believe the Dolphins, in attack, they've got too much for the Eels. The Hammer, Asako, Herbie Farnworth's playing well, Nikorima, Katoa. That they're kind of like skill players. I feel, even though Mitch Moses for the Eels, I do think that the Dolphins will get this one done. And we're going to put something new in. We're each going to give a bet for different games. And
if we were to plate a little bit of a flutter.
We were going to put a bit of flutter on, and I've used the odds from Sportsbet for my ones. But I'm going to go, I think this is going to be a high scoring affair. So I'm going to go over 48.5 points. Okay. And Josh Adokar to score first. That that double will give you $14.25. So that's my best bet for this game.
Okay.
Moving on to the Newcastle Knights against the Gold Coast Titans. This one is on Friday. The Newcastle Knights, $1.47 favourites against the Gold Coast Titans, $2.71. Two struggling teams coming up against each other. Where's the cash in this one?
Oh, God,
This is for bad reasons. This is a tough one to pick.
This is horrible. Just going on the fact that the Titans have actually stuck points on teams that have been doing a hell of a lot better than them. I'm gonna tip the Titans just in this.
I'm going to go back-to-back Knights. I'm going to go Knights this week. I feel that victory last week is going to spark something into action. They're at home, the McDonald Jones Stadium. They're performing in front of their home crowd. I believe the Knights get this one done, but where's your actual money?
To be fair, I wasn't very confident in saying that.
You've said it now, so you got to commit.
No, I'm sticking with it. I've gone for a three try multi. I've gone for James Skiller, Jojo Fafita, and Bradman Best all to score at $10.25.
Oh, nice little return on that one.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the South Sydney Rabbitohs against the Brisbane Broncos. It seems like things can only go from bad to worse for the Rabbitohs, but they're at $3.72. So we have the $3.72 South Sydney Rabbitohs against the $1.28 Brisbane Broncos.
I am going to go for the Broncos. Unfortunately, with everything that's happening with the Rabbitohs, even though Jamie Humphries is back and Latrell Mitchell is back.
Yes.
But as I said, it was the defence that's really letting them down, and they've still got a fair few rookies in there. And if you've got Cobbo running off the back fence off every monster kick by Humphries, I think there's going to be a few gaps there.
I agree with you. Brisbane Broncos to get this one done. Interesting talking point from this, though. Ezra Mam was eligible to play this round. His ban has been served.
He got
booed on screen by everyone in the stadium when he came up. So I reckon that could be a business decision not to play him. Maybe get him some footy back in Queensland Cup to get him up to speed. Yep. But when he comes back, I don't think he's going to be received well.
No, not at all.
I'm going to go with you on this one, though. Like I said, the Brisbane Broncos, if they turn it on, this could be an absolute cricket score. So because of that, my best bet for this game is going to be Broncos to score 31 plus.
Okay.
But Latrell Mitchell to score any time, and that gets you $5.25. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring one for the Broncos. On to the Canberra Raiders against the Bulldogs. What a test this is for the Raiders, and what a test this is for the Bulldogs. This could have match of the round written all over it. But we've got the Canberra Raiders, $1.73 against the Bulldogs, $2.12. This is first versus second.
This is a horrible week to tip.
This is horrible. It's always been horrible.
Everything, but now everything just seems to be a lot closer. Let's have a quick look at who's in and who's in. Matty Burton's back. Oh, it's Burton and Sexton for the. But do you know what? Who? I'm gonna go for the Raiders. I'm gonna back the Raiders. I just really like what they're doing. I really like what they're doing, and I think if they can get we've said it before, when the Bulldogs last played a testing team in the Broncos, they crumbled a little bit, and I reckon the Raiders have got that grit in them to beat the Dogs.
I'm going to agree with you. The fact it's in Canberra as well, the momentum is shifting. The only thing that potentially could go against the Raiders is the fact that they're going into this game as favourites. They love playing the underdog. Like Ricky Stewart probably loves giving it the hype up about, we're underdogs, showing what we're worth. But I think they get it done down in Canberra. I'm going to stick it on the Raiders as well. I'm going to tip the Raiders with you. But where's your bet for this one?
So again, this is to be fair with mine. I like to go for try scorers.
Yep.
But I think there's going to be a few tries. I've gone for 3 try scorers. I've gone for Bronson Cherry and Sebastian Crisp, so both centres. And then he hasn't scored in a couple of games, so I think he's going to come out flying. Big Hoodie Young, and that $20.75.
$20 on that one. Cool. Get amongst that one. Then we move on to the next game on the Saturday, which is the St. George Dragons against the New Zealand Warriors. Up the Wars. Dragons $2.14, Warriors $1.71. Warriors currently sitting third in the table.
Yep. And I think I'm going to back the boys, and I'm going to go for the Wars in this one. I think the Dragons are in a bit of a world of pain. And even though it is in the Gong, and they do like to play in the Gong, I'm going to go for the Warriors.
I'm going to join you on the Warriors. I believe they have too much with Luke Metcalf carving it up. I believe he continues his rich run of form. Harris Tavita, interestingly, Tuivasa-Sheck is back I don't think he's been named in the squad.
Yeah,
he's in the reserves. But someone that is back is Dalin Wateni-Zelezniak.
Yep.
So with that, just to confirm, I am tipping the New Zealand Warriors. But with my bet for this game, I'm going big DWZ 2+ tries on the return, paying $3.90. I think that's a good one to go with. Then on to the next game on the Saturday night, heading up to the Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. We got the $2.40 Cowboys against the $1.58 Penrith Panthers.
Okay.
It feels like another tough one again.
It's just like, do you know what? I'm going to just say it straight away. If the Panthers turn up like they did against the Broncos, they'll steamroll in this game, I reckon. Even though it is up in But we didn't play so well. Oh my God, this is. Do you know what? I'm gonna go for the Panthers. I'm gonna go for the bank. I'm gonna back the Panthers.
Back the Panthers on this one. I'm gonna have to join you on this one. It annoys me because I'm like, the Panthers are so unpredictable. Whenever you tip them, they lose, i.e. the Manly game. But then what they showed against the Broncos, you can't ignore that. No. You cannot ignore that one bit. And that was on foreign soil. That was up in Queensland. This game's up in Queensland, so they're kind of well versed.
Yep.
I think the Panthers get this done. Cleary might be guiding the boys to another victory.
Also, Brian Tahoe's back as well.
Which is a big inclusion.
Which is big, yeah.
Where's your money at? What you putting on this one?
So I've got Talangi, Tato and Derby all to score, and then Cleary and Drinkwater both to have 6+ points at $9.75.
Nice, just to stick those little 6-pointers on, just
because it does bump it up from $6 up to $9. So it's a couple of every penny and all that.
Exactly. Then on to the Sunday games. We'll talk about the 4:05 one in a second, which we're excited for. But at 2 p.m, we have the Melbourne Storm at $1.17 against the West Tigers. Big odds on this one, $5.10.
Whoa. That is mad. That is crazy. It's at Amy Park.
Amy Park.
Conditions are good. Weather's fine.
Flat track, dry weather.
This is going to be a flat track bully game for the Storm. I reckon they're going to put on a good 40 points. I still reckon the Tigers will score 28, so I reckon it could be like a good 40-28. Yeah. Saying that now, watch me egg on my face. The Tigers absolutely steamroll it. But yeah, I think it's flat track bully time, and they'll put some points on.
I can't see beyond the Melbourne Storm in this one as well. At home, they're a different animal. Yeah. Tigers, yes, they've improved. This will be a kind of real big test to see where they're lining up. Yeah. Melbourne have looked shaky, but I see the Storm getting it done. And then kind of my bet reflects what you've just said there. I've gone over 9.5 tries in the game, and then Melbourne to get to 10 points first, only paying $2.50.
Wow.
So 10 tries and Melbourne to get 10 points first, $2.50. But it could be a guarantee in the back pocket. We say it every week, the moment of the week. Then on to... Oh, it's Mother's Day on Sunday as well, by the way.
It's not my Mother's Day. That's already been and gone. That's something for you to worry about, not me.
Talking of Mother's Day, on to the most important thing on Sunday. We got the $1.64 Manly Warringah Sea Eagles against the $2.27 Cronulla Sharks.
Manly all the way. It's good to see that Seabold has recognised the mobility in the pack.
Yeah.
Moved Jake Trbojevic down the prop, which is a big one. Then you've got that combination between Simpkin and Tavanga at the sort of the lock and the hooker position, which they were very good at. You got Jake opposite for Blake, Mr. Tackle versus Mr. Run Over, so that'll be an interesting one. So, but now I think this is arguably our best back line as well.
Yeah.
With Trbojevic, Saab, Kalua, Kola, Garrick, Hopawate. So that's a very dangerous attack right there.
It is. This feels like a must-win game for Manly in terms of we lost a close one when we were in Perth against the Sharks. It almost felt like people were scared to make a mistake. We're both locked up with 10 points on the table, sitting next to each other on the table. This one will determine, I think, how our next... So let's split the season into 3 phases, right? We're 9 games through, so we're a third of the way. Everyone's found their feet. Everyone's kind of figured each other out. This reminds me, this next 9 games with the origin period reminds me a bit like moving day in golf, when they talk about the Saturday in golf, where you have a real opportunity to shoot up the ladder, cement yourself in the top 8. This is the first game of that kind of second phase of the season. I believe we win this, and I believe we win this quite comfortably. I think the Sharks didn't show much last week. They just grind out their processes. Will Kennedy's playing pretty well at the moment. Yeah. He did take a fairly big knock, though, I believe, last weekend. So we'll see how that impacts his performance. And it seems like Stone Street just seems to be getting the ball constantly. And if he scores 1, he scores 2. So the key to us winning this game is keeping Kennedy quiet and stopping him getting the ball to Stone Street.
Yeah.
If we can do that, we win this comfortably. So I'm going with the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles 13 plus. That's not my bet. You were the one with the bet on this. But they're winning it 13 plus. But where's your money at for this one?
I've gone big on this one.
Good.
I've gone big on this one. I think we're going to use our right edge brilliantly. So I've got all of Saab, Alaquata and Garrick to score.
Yes.
With Mulatalo and Stone Street.
Ooh.
And then Garrick 8+ points, Hines 6+ points at $72.
This is going to be like 40 points to 30 or something going on.
Yeah, I think it will be. But then if you were to put a bet on like all the multis that I've just done in my 3 or 4 games, the odds are $149,306.62 to 1.
I did think about doing that, but I was doing it on the bus on my phone and I was trying to go back and forward. So fair play.
That's worth $1.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to being back at Brookie. Sunday though, so probably not too many beers, maybe just a couple to settle the nerves.
See what happens.
We'll settle the nerves.
See what happens.
But yeah, be sure to follow along on socials to kind of see who we're tipping and progress as it goes. But one quick thing to touch on before we round things off. This Thursday, we have the British and Irish Lions. The squad is going to be getting announced of who's coming over to Australia. They've got the warm-up game coming up against Argentina. But some big news that came out this morning is Caelan Doris, who was almost a lock to be British and Irish Lions captain, suffered an injury at the weekend on his shoulder and was requiring surgery. So he's touch and go whether he's going to be on the plane. Don't quite know how long the recovery is going to be. But do you think that means that Big Maro Itoje is going to be Lions captain?
Yeah, he was going to be number 2 if he gets selected. And
I think the word that you used a few episodes ago was he's being groomed to be the Lions captain. Or was that England?
That was England captain. That was England captain. Not quite Lions, but no, he's a massive leader. He's a massive influence in that team, and I think he would be a massive asset to all the lads coming in as well.
Yeah.
But no, really excited to see who they select. I reckon it's going to be a physical big team because that's how Andy Farrell likes his rugby. So expect some big centres, some big forwards in there as well.
Owen Farrell, I think, as well, got knocked out at the weekend. So
Daddy will pick him.
Exactly, a bit of nepotism or something like that. Daddy will pick him. We'll see how it goes. But follow us along on Insta because we're going to post our predictions up on Insta. Hopefully, get them out Thursday ahead of when they were actually predicted. So follow. They've been doing it all day, sir, on Insta and on TikTok and on YouTube. Like and subscribe and show us some love. But anything else you want to touch on? Piastri winning his second in a row.
He's absolutely killing it. It's just very happy. It's just good to see him going along. McLaren are absolutely firing at the moment, and it's nice to see Wingy Max not doing very well.
Yeah, love to see it. But thank you for watching along this week. Make sure you like and subscribe on all platforms, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you later.